What's up, everybody? So, there was another school shooting in the United States. I don't remember if it was today or yesterday, but another school shooting. Um, Kids died, teachers died. Obviously horrible. But every time this happens, obviously discussions come up. How to prevent it. Should you, some on one side people are like, oh, should you take guns away from people? On the other side, people say, oh, maybe you should give more guns to people, give guns to teachers, give guns to staff, etc., right? So, I wanted to talk about how to stop school shootings 100%. And it's possible. As crazy as that may sound, it is possible, 100%. That's the way you do that is to remove all schools. As ridiculous as that sounds, there wouldn't be no school shootings if there were no schools, right? Okay. So the point of me saying that is not a suggestion of, oh, we should get rid of all the schools. It's just a matter of the point. Like, if people were really serious, like if you really wanted to stop all school shootings, just get rid of all schools. No elementary, no junior high, no high school, no college, nothing, no schools, right? Now stop it. You can't have a school shooting if there are no schools. Period, point blank, end of story, right? Okay. Now, obviously that's absurd because people like having schools. Oddly enough, especially in modern days, school isn't even really about education anymore. You can learn online, YouTube videos, Wikipedia. I mean, obviously you go to a library. Schools are kind of a thing of the past where, say, books weren't as present or harder to get, especially like out in farm communities. You couldn't always get access to education. There's no internet, say 100 years ago or whatever. And that's not the case. So school is really not about education. It's really not. It's more about, one, it's kind of like a babysitter for people's children because people go to work during the day. And school is sort of like a free babysitter. It's like, say you go to work from, 7 o'clock in the morning throughout the day. Say your kids didn't go to school, but what do you do with your kids? Who's going to watch your kids? Especially if they're, still kind of young. Well, you have to pay someone to watch them, whatever. But instead, you send them to school, right? So that's one reason. Plus, school also acts as a way for kids to start to learn how to socialize, start to learn how to obey rules. Hey, you got to sit at your desk. You got to, do this homework, whatever. Like I said, it's really not about education. It's about other things, okay? But yeah, if you really wanted to stop all school shootings, get rid of schools, okay? Now, there is an equivalent way to quote-unquote stop school shootings that wouldn't, that doesn't require you to close down all schools. And that, simply enough, is don't send your child to school. Like I said, as simple as the thought experiment is, well, you want to get rid of all school shootings, just get rid of schools. Okay. Also simple enough, if you don't want your child involved in a school shooting, or you don't want to, say you go to college, whatever, say you're 20s, 30s, whatever, you don't want to be involved in a school shooting, don't go to school. If you're, say you're an adult and you go to some kind of college and you worry about school shootings, well, just do online only. Simple, you don't have to worry about a shooting inside your own house. I mean, other than your family or whatever, but you don't go to, the point is, you don't go to a physical school, you don't have to worry about a school shooting. Simple enough, right? So that is an option. Whether you yourself go to college or whatever and you worry about school shootings, just don't go. Do online. You have that option nowadays. Or like I said, if you have children who go to school, elementary, junior high, high school, whatever, and you worry about them in school shootings, obviously not all the schools are going to shut down like my first idea, but the equivalent is just don't send your kid to school. Homeschool, right? Okay. And sort of in that second part, I'm about to go to Walgreens right now, so I'm just talking before I go in there. The second part of that, if you are worried about school shootings, right? And maybe you are debating, hey, should I send my children to school? Should I continue to go to college? Should I go to my college campus and chance it or whatever? I mean, oddly enough, or whatever, funny enough, is you could kind of run the statistics on it also if you wanted to, somewhat. So you could, because there's a finite amount of schools in the United States, right? Let's just take elementary schools, for example. Say you have a child and they're in elementary school years, I don't know, whatever years that is, 6 to whatever, 10, right? So your child goes to elementary school, right? Okay. You could look up how many elementary schools are in the United States. You get an approximate number. You might not be able to get an exact number. How many elementary schools are in the United States? Okay, there's a number. There's a finite number to that, right? Okay. How many school shootings happen at elementary schools? That's also a finite number, right? Okay, so now what percentage of the school shootings, how do I say this? What percentage of those shootings is of the overall percentage of schools? So just for example, let's just say that there's 10,000 elementary schools in all of the United States, just say, right? And let's say over the course of the year, let's say there's 10 school shootings in an elementary school. We're just doing elementary schools, right? So that's 10 out of 1,000. What percentage is that? What is that? 1%? Let's see, 10% is 100. Yeah, so that'd be 1%. And so if you really wanted to run the probability of it, you could say, okay, there's 10,000 elementary schools. There's approximately 10 every year school shootings, and so there's a 1% chance that my child is going to be at the school during, over the course of the year. There's a 1% chance that there's going to be a school shooting at the school that my child goes to. Okay, you could literally run the numbers on it. Approximation. You might not be able to get exact, but the approximation, right? And so you take that information as a parent and you say, okay, do I want to send my child to school with that 1% probability of there being a school shooting at their school? Now that doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be a school shooting in your child's classroom or that they're going to be involved in it. It could happen on the opposite side of campus or whatever. Happen in the cafeteria, whatever. But it's just the point that you could say, okay, there's a 1% chance that my child is going to be at school one day and that a school shooting might happen at their school. And now, then you ask yourself, okay, with that statistic, do I feel comfortable sending my child to school knowing those numbers? And if you don't, if you're still worried about your child being potentially involved in a school shooting, maybe whether your child is doing the shooting or getting shot at, it could be either or, obviously, you make a decision from there. You're like, no, 1% is too high. I don't want to send my kid to school at all anymore. Or you could say, hey, 1% chance, that's pretty low. I'm going to just let my kid go to school. So you could literally run the numbers and make that decision for yourself. So that is an option. So regardless of what my overall point in all this is, okay, every time this happens, the politicians come out. And I don't mean just the actual politicians. I mean like YouTube politicians and TV politicians and, people, want to give their opinion. Oh, like I said, it's people like, oh, you should take guns away or you should give more people guns or whatever. Okay, so regardless of all of that, forget that. You could run the numbers yourself. You can make the decision yourself. Like I said, how worried are you about school shootings? Regardless if it's for yourself going to college or for your children going to whatever grade they're in, how worried are you? Okay? And then, like I said, run an estimate on the numbers. And once you do, say, okay, now that I know the numbers, forget whether they take guns out or give teachers guns or whatever. Run the numbers yourself. Do the numbers increase every year? As it was last year, 10 elementary schools that had school shootings, this year 11. See if it's increasing, see if it's decreasing. Run the math on it. Forget all the political stuff. That's my point. Forget all the political stuff. If you really are concerned about school shootings, don't go to school. Don't send your kids to school. If you're willing to take the risk, then send your kids to school or go to your college or whatever yourself. And that's my opinion. And now, in saying that, one more thing. Now, let's just say hypothetically, you either took your child out of school completely, whatever grade they're in, and so you remove that threat of them being involved in a school shooting, or B, even crazier, let's just say hypothetically they did shut down all the schools, and so there you go, no more school shootings, right? Now that doesn't mean, I'm gonna start walking again, that doesn't mean that there will never be any shootings anywhere. You could close down all the schools in the United States, and the same crazy people who wanted to shoot up schools, maybe they would go to the mall and shoot up, or into a park, or to the grocery store. Maybe you'd see more of that. They're like, oh man, they closed down all the schools, I gotta go do my evil bidding other places. So my point is that even in that crazy scenario, they closed down all the schools, or even like I said, even if you removed your child from schools, okay, you remove that threat is gone. You're like, okay, I'm not going to send my child to school anymore. I don't want to be involved in a school shooting. Okay, you remove that threat, but just be aware of pretty much anytime you go in a public place, or anywhere. Life is a threat. Obviously, life is a threat, right? And it really is all about probability. I'm standing here next to Walgreens, for example, right? There's not a lot of cars coming around here or whatever, but there is a small chance. There could be a drunk driver coming into the parking lot, and he could slam against the wall and crush me. I literally seen a video on YouTube yesterday. People were inside a Little Caesars Pizza, just getting their food. Car crashed through the thing, and through the wall. The Little Caesars, I don't know if anybody was killed, but it crashed through the wall. Okay, so there's always that small probability, right? But now, say I go and run on the freeway, okay? Now the probability increases a lot that I'm going to get hit by a car. I'm running back and forth on the freeway, doing jumping jacks, being a crazy person. Okay, now the odds of me getting hit by a vehicle are very, very high. Okay, so my point in that is, like I said, just living, there's always some probability that something's going to happen to you or your child or whatever, right? Okay, now you can subject yourself or your children to things that would increase the probability. Say you live in a really populated city with a lot of crime, or say you're out and about a lot in public places or whatever. Okay, the probability of something happening to you or your child or whoever is a little bit higher. Now there's people who go to the opposite extreme, and they're like, they don't want to deal with anything. They go out in the wilderness and whatever. They're like, okay, I'll take my chances with the the bears and whatever, but they're not around any people, and so they don't have to worry about school shootings or store shootings or someone taking their wallet or whatever, because they're not around anybody. So my point in all this is, again, forget all about whether they're gonna take guns for people or give teachers guns or whatever, all that. Okay, assess your probabilities. It's like, and make a decision based on that, on anything, not just with schools or whatever, with everything. Say, literally ask yourself, say, hey, how careful do I want to be with myself and with my child or my children, whatever, in life? Or how, free do I want to be? You're like, hey, I'm going to let my kids go to school, and, I'm going to take that 1% chance because I want my kids to go to school and socialize and do all those things, So that's my point. Just run the probability, so to speak, and not little. You don't have to actually run the numbers, but just kind of just to think about it in your head. Just know that if you do send your kid to school, or if you are in college and you go to school, there is a percentage. Like I said, there is a finite amount of schools in the United States, and there are, a certain number, approximate number of shootings that happen every year. So there is a probability that you or your child could be involved in a school shooting, right? And so, that probability is there. So do you want to take that risk or not? There's a probability that, you could go to the beach and get eaten by a shark. But you could completely remove that probability by just never going to the ocean. You never, ever, ever would have to worry about getting eaten by a shark. If you never went to the ocean, you never went to SeaWorld, you never went into a lake or a stream or nothing, you ain't got to worry about alligators, nothing like any kind of sea creatures or water creatures. You completely remove that threat. So that's my point. And so, you make those assessments in life. And so that's kind of my opinion. All right. Anyhow, thank you for watching. See you guys next video.